It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Whittier College head softball coach, Coach Trisha Senyo. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college softball?
Yeah. So, I kind of fell into it. It wasn't necessarily the plan. I was an art major when I was in college, so it was definitely not the plan to go into anything kinesiology or exercise science based. But I graduated. I had 3 head coaches when I was in college, and I think that transition and getting thrown into being a captain and a leader just kind of groomed me in a sense for that path. And when I graduated, I had to figure out to do something, had to make money somehow. So working a couple different jobs and kind of interviewed for one position in college. And I was actually Whittier. Whittier College was my first coaching job as an assistant coach. And so just kind of ran with it. And it was great experience.
What was your time like as a college softball player playing for University of Laverne?
Yeah, Laverne was great. I mean, it was 30 minutes away from where I grew up, which was also not the plan. Wanted to go out of state to school and get a different experience. But a lot of it when you're looking for a college or a school, it's just what is the best fit, how does it feel? And going there, I just loved the campus. I loved my coaches, loved the teammates, and kind of what the program was turning into. And so it was a great experience getting to go there. I lived on campus for all 4 years. So that was a wonderful experience, and getting to play college softball at, a very competitive level with other extremely competitive women was a great experience.
Of course, what was that feeling like as a softball player to get to represent them and put on that softball jersey for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, you don't realize what an honor it is to be able to be, one of 22 on a roster, and to be chosen and to go through 4 years. Not a lot of athletes make it through all 4 years of college, and let alone get the opportunity to be given the chance to get to represent a school like Laverne. And we were extremely competitive. So again, I was just so grateful for opportunities. And like a lot of other people, I loved orange and green. And so being able to represent the Leopards, and to be able, again, just to call myself a college athlete and to be able to compete and really see what I could do over 4 years, it's an experience I'm extremely grateful for.
At Laverne, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player?
Oh, as a player, my sophomore year, I could totally date myself on this situation, but at the time, Division III, we did not have a super regionals round. So it just went from, and we didn't have a conference tournament either. So it was just, you had to compete as best as you could in the regular season. You go to regionals, and then whoever win regionals goes to the World Series. So it was hard to get through, a very, very tough road. And my sophomore season, I was our starting right fielder, and we made it. We were an at-large bid. We made it to a regional championship game. We were undefeated seed, and being just, one game away from being able, to compete and to go to a World Series was phenomenal. So that was an amazing experience to get to compete at that level. And then my senior year, the SCIAC, our conference at the time, which is the conference I coach in now, they started the conference tournament for the first time in program history and in conference history. And we won the conference tournament my very first year, or our very first year, my senior year. So again, we got the at-large bid, and we got to go to regionals again. So being able to compete at the regional level twice in a 4-year collegiate career is something definitely I'm proud of.
As that college softball player, what was that experience like being one step away from the College World Series?
Oh man, it's an experience that you can't even describe. And I mean, the nerves and just being able to know that, that we were the undefeated seed in the championship game. We lost, unfortunately, we lost in both games, but to be able, again, to go to play as many innings as you possibly can and get as close as you can. And we lost by just one run. We lost 2-1 in the championship game, the final game. And to know that we were so close, again, it's like, it's still something that like aches, like I still think about it. It's like still hurts incredibly to know that we were just, one more run away. And I was the tying run, or I think it was the winning run on third base, or it's on second base at the time. And so again, to like be so close, and you don't really realize it at the time, but just amazing. Again, I look back, and being a college coach now for 15 years, you realize how coveted those spots are and how hard it is to be able to get to that level and compete. So definitely a huge appreciation for that now.
Coming out of college, what was your experience like getting into college coaching and first starting off as an assistant coach at Whittier?
Yeah. Whittier, being there for, for my first year out of college, I was only a year older than any of the girls, the senior class that I was coaching at the time. I think it was great for me to be able to coach at a different institution instead of my same school. So, I mean, but that's hard. You're walking the line, and you're just 1 year older, and you've really got to be able to talk to them as just experiential rather than too firm. You can only, drop a hammer so many times when you're only a year older than somebody. So it's a delicate situation, but I got a chance to grow so much, and being able to be in a conference that I'd already played in for so many years. I think that was very familiar, and helped the athletes really, connect with me.
How was that 2009 season like at helping them take that first conference championship win?
Yeah, so we getting over finally making it to the conference championship, or conference tournament, I should say, for the first time in program history. Again, to be a part of anything that grows and creates a lot of movement, and creates a first for programs is just, it's something not only that you're so proud of, to be able to be a part of, but to be able to see, the women that succeeded in that realm and that got to experience that for their first time, being a part of their experiences is an honor as well.
What was your time like going to Soma State and becoming the assistant coach there?
Yeah, Sonoma State. We were a Division II up in Northern California, a conference and a division I wasn't familiar with. So that was intimidating. I was like 23, 24, and it was just the head coach, Coach Bridges, and myself. And she looked at me and just kind of said, "Okay, figure it out. Go become the strength conditioning coach, and run a defense and do so much." And there's, sometimes there's that imposter syndrome where you get up there and you think like, okay, they're going to figure me out. I'm just a Division III athlete, or I didn't compete at this level. And really, I got there, and being able to be a part of their experience. And we had a phenomenal year that first season up there in 2010. So again, that opportunity to go up there was fantastic.
While there, what was that like balancing being the assistant coach and the strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah. It's definitely one of those situations you get into, and you just got to call as many people as you can to say, help me figure this out. I called my mentor, my strength conditioning mentor at the time, Coach Matt Durant at Laverne. He was our strength coach for my 4 years there. So I called back to him and I said, this is my equipment. This is what I got. This is my numbers. What do I do? And he helped me kind of walk through that. And you got to roll with it. You just got to dive into the deep end and be okay with failure. Things are not always going to work out the way you want them to, but you got to dive in holistically and just figure it out, and trust that the process is going to work. But I mean, like I said, you got to roll with it. You just got to run confidently and see how it all comes out.
Going to Riverside City College, what was that experience like being the assistant coach before taking that head coaching job at that next stop?
Yeah. So I was at Sonoma State for 5 seasons. And Coach Bridges and I had worked together for so long, for 6 years at that point. I had grown so much at Sonoma that it was just kind of time, like I got to branch out and try to do something different. Right. And so moving down south and going to RCC, which is a junior college, I had an amazing head coach there who really onboarded me as to, and reinvigorated me and onboarded me onto, what junior college life is like. And so, but it was a hard transition. It wasn't my program anymore. It was somebody else's program, and these athletes need to learn me and figure me out. So that it was a hard transition, but it was definitely something, looking back, some of the hardest transitions you go through are the best ones for growth. So very grateful again that I took that step.
What was that feeling like the first time you became a head softball coach for the first time?
Yeah, I think it was, I had been coaching, coaching at the collegiate level in general, getting the opportunities that I had gotten in all my previous institutions. I've had head coaches that were so open to just say, hey, take this and run with it. Tell me what you need, and I'll help you grow. So being able to have that mentorship beforehand, I felt confident. I felt extremely confident going into Chaffey as our head coach there. Again, a junior college, so still trying to figure out and navigate that. But I was really excited to just figure out, it's mine now. And what can I do with this now that it's mine?
What was your time like at Chaffey as the head coach?
Yeah, so I was at Chaffey for 2.5 seasons. I got hired in the summer. Our first season there, which was 2016. All my years are all jumbled now, but my first season at Chaffey, we won the conference, which was my first time winning a straight out conference championship. So that was phenomenal, being able to do that. I got Coach of the Year, which again was just a huge honor from my peers to be given that as well. So just really exciting. And then you struggle, you go up and down, and recruiting and maintaining a junior college program is really taxing. I mean, those athletes work extremely hard, and I am so grateful for being able to be at the junior college. It validated that level. It showed how hard they work. Their schedule is never ending. The game schedule is crazy. You're on the road a lot, and you're just constantly recruiting and turning over and keeping these athletes and progressing in their life. And so being at the junior college was definitely difficult, but gave me so much respect for what the athletes do at the junior college level.
While at Chaffey, what were some of the things that you learned to then help you to make the next jump to come back to Whittier College to become their
Yeah.
head coach?
Yeah. A lot of the things I learned at the junior colleges is really recruiting, right? I mean, you're turning over half of your roster every year. And sometimes you get things that are unforeseen, right? If one person's one grade, one GPA, 0.02 on a GPA, just one little thing can slip, and it can really turn a season around, in a positive way or a negative way. But I had so many good mentors there at the junior college as well, that just kind of helped keep onboarding me and really dealing with adversity, right? When something happens and you got to pivot. So now I'm going to go this route, and then something happens and now I pivot. So you don't really have a whole lot of time to dwell on things when they don't go your way. So I think, again, just being able to like recoup and move on to the next direction was extremely helpful.
What was that feeling like for you to return back to Whittier to become their next head coach?
Yeah, coming back to Whittier, it was funny. My husband was that head strength conditioning coach there at Whittier at the time. This was my second bout coming back to Whittier, and my re-entrance back into the conference, that I competed in and played in. So it was extremely honored and to be given that opportunity. And not only was it the head coaching position, but it was also an associate athletic director role. And I had compliance and SWA, and I had a lot of other administrative stuff going on there too. So being able to take on not only just a new head coaching role, but new administrative duties that, helped open me up to a lot of other just new things to experience was awesome.
How was that like, obviously coming back and knowing about the program versus going to a whole new program that you didn't know about?
Yeah, so it can kind of be sometimes intimidating when you're coming into a program that had an extremely successful, tenure of head coaches prior to me. The program was top 4 in conference, a lot, like many years in a row, and there was a lot of really really wonderful coaches that had run that program before. So sometimes it can be a little daunting to take on a task where you want to make sure that you're continuing that progress and moving that program forward. So to take that on, is a challenge, and just making sure that you got to make it yours, figure out what works for you and the institution as well. And anytime you get to a new school, you just got to figure out what's their label, right? Like what are the things that we do well, and how can I continue to benefit this of what our college already does well, and continuing telling that story.
Of course, what was that feeling like for you to step onto that softball field for the first time as a head coach for Whittier?
Yeah, like I said, it's an honor, right? It's an honor to be able to take that role on and that responsibility. Now I take that responsibility very seriously. There's a lot of women's careers at stake, and it's their experience, and they only get it once. It's a positive and negative thing to tell my athletes sometimes, like, you may not be here next year, but I will. And so it helps them take that seriously. But it's also something I take seriously, is the fact that I get to do the most fun thing in the world, which is just basically play softball and coach softball all the time. And their experience in that world is finite. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Of course, what does that typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
Yeah, so I get in really early. I get in a much earlier than most players probably would anticipate. I get into the office at least, let's see, warm-ups 2 hours ahead. So 4 hours ahead of time. I get scouting reports together. We do all of our printouts together. I pre-write the roster, the starting lineup for the day, go up to the field, got to make sure everything's unlocked, make sure that field's lined, it's up to code, it's looking good, equipment's open. Any snafus with uniforms, you're a problem solver. Doesn't matter if I'm a head coach, and if I have a director of operations, game day manager, a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So get there really early and make sure that we solve any of those problems before the athletes even know that they're problems.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the softball program?
Yeah, I mean, culture in general, right? You want it to be based on work ethic, based on respect, and every single day is finite. So we really work on staying high pace, high emotions, in terms of being really disciplined, and every day we want to be focusing as if it's a game day, and vice versa. So we really work high pace and respect every part of the Whittier culture in general, whether it's academically, it's within the weight room, it's community, it's how we represent ourselves on and off the field. So just a lot of respect and definitely growth mindset, and want to make sure that these women show up every day with the idea of today's a day to make myself better. And I'm here to face adversity and see how I respond to that, and just grow.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you face each week?
Oh, so we have 8 teams total in conference, and we're all Southern California, which is a very different landscape than a lot of our other Division threes in the nation work. We are the only Division three conference in the state of California, but we're all Southern California. We're all an hour and a half away from each other for the most part. So it makes, I think it makes for the player experience much more academically balanced, and that's a big selling point for us, because our athletes are extremely competitive at everything, whether it's academically, it's future career based, and it's on the softball field. So within the conference realm, we've got Redlands is our furthest team to the east. We have Cal Lutheran furthest team to the west, and then we've got Occidental, Chapman, Laverne, Pomona Pitzer, and CMS. So I think that's 8 of us right there. And we have Caltech in our conference, but they don't sponsor softball. So within the conference level, that's who we're going against. And we play a 3-game series against one team each week, which is different. So we'll play Laverne all one weekend, and then we won't see them again until postseason if we're all lucky enough to get there.
Of course, what is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Cal Lutheran come versus going to Pomona Pitzer and playing them away?
Yeah. Everybody's, home field advantage is a little bit different. And our home field advantage is pretty unique to us. Our field is built into a hillside. And so our right field foul line and left field foul territory and our backstop, everything, our dimension's a lot different than everybody else's. So I like to think of that as a home field advantage for us. And we have really crazy sun that sets right behind home. So our center fielders, oftentimes, if you don't show up to our field without sunglasses, you're going to be in trouble. So we kind of look at that as a home field advantage for us. And then, anytime you play away, you're going to be dealing with those emotions of those home fans and how they do their home game. So you just got to really be focused on having fun today and focusing on the game right at hand.
As a head coach, do you have any game day routines and rituals before games?
For me personally, I would say, I like to throw BP pregame. So I throw a full long, and in a lot of sense, it's just kind of like my pregame that I get to get, my excitement and my nerves out for the day as well. And it's kind of my version of getting back and going to my own home, my own playing days and just getting back into that mindset of competing. So I like doing that.
As a head coach, what are some of your biggest coaching accomplishments this far?
Well, I'd say, I mean, I've been really successful with just making it to postseason a lot, my coaching career in general and being able to experience that. I think the head coaching side of it specifically, I take a lot of pride in trying to recruit, mentor, and produce an assistant coach back out into the world in whatever version that they want to be. We've got a lot of assistant coaches that have stayed in coaching, a lot of assistant coaches that came into coaching just because they wanted to give back to the sport and they wanted to be giving back to the athletes, but also ultimately are not coaches long term, but my job is, and my goal is always to recruit assistant coaches that are passionate and are ready to grind, and whether that's giving back or just progressing themselves in their future careers is, I think that's an area I'm really proud of is the mentoring and the process that we've gone through with assistant coaches.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective softball players looking to play college softball?
Yeah, well, it's a wide net. I mean, there's so many really talented, collegiate level women out there that are competing to make it to that next level. And for being a Southern California school, I'm happy to recruit out-of-state athletes. It's just when you got athletes in your backyard that want to stay local and want to stay in Southern California, we're a really competitive market as well. So, finding the right athletes that are looking to grind and want to give to the team first, because it's a long trek. Being in college for 4 years is a grind, whether you're a starter or you're working for that starting position, and at the end of the day, it's got to be team first, and you're really here to look at this as to be grateful and as an honor to be one of the 22 or 23 that we have on our roster that year, and it's really an experience that they get to have. So finding just really competitive athletes that want to be the best in everything.
As a head coach, what is that like, obviously getting to recruit in the California area with it being such a big market in softball?
It is demanding. It is demanding. I mean, even just this week alone, right now, we have PGF that's running and Alliance that's running. I just came back from a camp up in Northern California in Tracy. So I drove 5 hours up there, 5 hours back. And then we've got, it must be, I can't even tell you how many games are happening in Southern California right now, all the way down to San Diego. So it's daunting to take on, and you can't be everywhere at the same time. And so we really have to do a lot of recruitment from the back end, right? Relying on videos, relying on emails, relying on coaching, just other travel ball coaches that we get to call and ask for references. So you got to really look at it in as many tiers as you possibly can to be efficient.
Of course, what is that like, obviously recruiting those in-state California athletes, but also going out to the South Coast, the East Coast, and recruiting coach players in the East Coast area?
Yeah, what I found with an out-of-state athlete that wants to go out of state of their state, right? So if I'm recruiting a Colorado athlete, for example, if she wants to go out of state, then oftentimes I'm now competing with not only just, the other schools she's looking at, but how many other states that she's looking at, right? So it's hard to be competitive to be able to see and track and really recruit heavily some of those out-of-state athletes. And we don't have a big recruiting budget. So I've really got to rely on them coming here and rely on videos. And so that's why we don't yield a whole lot of out-of-state athletes unless there's an out-of-state athlete that has family in Southern California and they want to come back and be local to that family. That gives them something that's rooted. So it helps us kind of dive into that athlete a little bit more if they know specifically they want to come to SoCal.
What does the official visit look like at Whittier College?
Yeah, so official visits for Division III level specifically, we have a number of days that we're eligible and span that we're allowed to have them on campus. For us specifically, we like to do overnights in the dorms if the athlete chooses to do that. Just gives them that experience of what it's like to be in the dorms overnight and gives them a much more closer relationship with our current athletes. That's our biggest selling point, is the athletes that we have on our roster. And so I try to get them on campus, do an overnight, and then come watch a practice or a game. And really get to see like what the day in the life of an athlete at Whittier is like.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that Whittier purple jersey for the first time?
Yeah, their excitement and their nerves, a lot of times it's like just selfies all over the place and they're taking pictures and seeing their families around and being able to to sport that uniform and that jersey. Again, you see the pride in their face and they're just really proud of themselves, which I think is the biggest thing to get to that point in the first place. And now now you got to kind of reinstitute and reconstitute your love of the game and the grind moving forward after when you're a first year and you're coming in, everything's exciting, but now you got the grind ahead of you now.
What is that like as a head coach to see those seniors put on that uniform for the last time representing the college?
Oh, it's so emotional. It's emotional for all of us. I think a lot of us as head coaches, we see a lot of us cry, when it's even their last day. And, we've spent, if they're transfers, we spent 2 years with them. If they're first years, they came in as first years, we spent 4 years with them. Sometimes we're like the longest relationship we've had, in their life in a lot of ways, that a consistent relationship other than their family. So, seeing them transition through their collegiate career and as women and growing and developing as people has been a huge I have a lot of respect for them, and it's an honor again for me to be able to be a part of their lives for that whole time. So it's very emotional to see them put on that jersey for the last time.
What is that like as a head coach to see those players after they put on that jersey and leave to go into whether it's playing professional softball or just getting into coaching softball?
Yeah, to see them come back on their alumni games and hear what they're doing in life. And a lot of Division III athletes are not going to go pro, right? They're not trying to go on to something bigger in a specific softball realm. They did this for their love of this game and to compete, and they pushed through and they persevered. And now a lot of them go on to be doctors. I've got a lot of teachers, a lot of educators. I've got a lot of physician's assistants that have come out, engineers, and just women that are working hard, nurses, anything that they're working hard to do now in the rest transition in their life, to get to see them come back and them compete really hard in the alumni game again. Like they go for it, like they're sliding and they're diving, and we got catchers putting gear on again. You can see how competitive they are, and it's great to see them in that aspect again.
Of course, what is that feeling like seeing those alumni put that uniform on one last time during that
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, it's again just another connection, right? And I hope that they continue coming back and doing it over and over again. And I think it's just as important for our current athletes to see them come back and reconnect and see that there's life after softball, which is sometimes hard and scary to face. But for them to come back again and be appreciated and be validated in the things that they've accomplished in their time here, I think is just really important. So we just really hope that they keep coming back.
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, we got lots of, you're always working on stuff, right? Whether it's we're increasing travel, the program, it's hard to fundraise enough money to travel out of state every year. And so that's always a big goal for me, is to be able to take the team out of state for a big trip every year. We actually have for Division III, we're allowed a one time every couple of years, so we're allowed to do an international trip. So we got a trip to Costa Rica coming up this January. We're traveling out to Georgia. We're increasing our strength of schedule, and our strength of schedule is a big part of giving our athletes the opportunity to compete for postseason. So that's one big goal for me, is just always continue developing a really competitive schedule every season, giving them those experiences to compete as best as they can with the best competition around the nation. And then, continuing growing, the not only just, win-loss records is one thing, and being able to compete for postseason is one thing, but continue just bringing in a culture of athletes that want to work hard and want to be the best, not only in the conference, but on our campus, whether it's academics, whether it's weight room, some of those things. And then just some others, always just field improvements. We've got locker room renovation that we're always working on. We've got big locker room donation. So to bring that experience to our athletes and have another hub for them to come to is some of the things we got on the docket now.
Of course, as a coach, what is that like, obviously taking your softball players out to, let's say, Georgia or Costa Rica, and getting to see different areas, as most California people stay in that area?
Yeah, that's always exciting, right? Always exciting. Some of my athletes have just never been to those states, or even one or two of them have just never been on planes before. So when you get to fly them out somewhere, and it's another first experience that you get to give these young women that will hopefully just continue to propel the next stages of their life. So to see them so excited when I get to tell them, that's nice experience together. That's like all they talk about, and even after post-graduation and stuff, a lot of the stuff that they talk about as alumni when they come back is not always, oh, we won this game or we competed this. It's the other things that are not, as tangible, like, getting a room together, what experience that was, or the first time in an airplane or airport or whatever those things are that they go through together. That's a big part, and a big part of the experience that we always want to provide to them.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of college softball?
Hang in there. Hang in there. It's going to be harder than you anticipate it. It's going to be harder than anybody tells you that it's going to be. Is just keep your eye on the next day. It's just one day at a time. And the next thing that we have is really compartmentalizing, what our day looks like. And like I said, whether in some form or another, it's not going to be what you signed up for. Coach is probably going to be a lot more mean than you anticipated me to be, right? Whether it's me or any other coach, I'm probably going to be a lot harder. I'm going to be more demanding. Your teammates are going to be probably much more demanding than you anticipated. The class schedules are going to be demanding. The experience away from home, whatever that looks like, is going to be demanding. So it's going to be a really hard experience, and that's what it's supposed to be. Push through it. And I always guarantee, whatever your choices are going to be, make your choices. But usually anytime I have a freshman that's having a hard time, by the time they make it to their sophomore season, their sophomore year in general, they're like, oh, okay, I'm not a first year anymore. Like, I feel better. And it just, your landscape looks a lot differently. So you got to push through, you got to grind. This is an experience you signed up for. So push through it.
Of course, what advice would you give those seniors that will get those opportunities to go play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or overseas?
Yeah. So there's a lot of Division III athletes that are extremely capable and competitive and have the opportunity. And even my senior season, I had a couple mentors in my life, two of my collegiate coaches at the time that mentored me to get into coaching. And they told me I should go try out for one of the pro leagues. It was the Rockford Thunder at the time out in Illinois. And I got a tryout with them. And that was an amazing experience. And I never thought, I would have made it there. And I never would have done it had somebody not told me that I should at least give it a try. And so, I didn't make it. I wasn't chosen, and that's okay. That's okay. But that in and of itself was an experience I am forever grateful for. And I'm forever grateful for the people in my life that helped propel me to get to that position and just tell me to take that chance. And those, we've had assistant coaches that have played in the pro league before. And again, that's a grind, and it's not maybe always as glamorous, but to be able to do that and to know, to be able to tell yourself that you achieved those things, that's amazing. So keep pushing.
What advice would you give those college softball players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Yeah. I think, the sport always needs more really dedicated people that are in it for the sport and in it for the athletes. And so anytime anyone is going to be looking into getting into even just trying coaching in general, it doesn't matter what level it is, right? There's always a space and a value that they're going to bring to that. Is just ask and talk. And Julie Smith, who was my head coach my senior year, and she's coaching the conference now. It's funny because everybody knows that Whittier, I'm always looking for assistant coaches. My turnover rate's pretty quick. So everybody knows that I'm always looking for coaches. So we were out and, we had another contact, another woman who was coaching at the high school level, and she wanted to break into college. So she just randomly asked Julie, and Julie got her in touch with me. And now, we got her into a college coaching job. So it's all about really just networking and just going out, and don't be afraid to ask somebody like, this is what my goal is. Who should I call? What should I do? And everybody has different ways to access the market and different ways to access the industry. And there's so many different ways to do it. So if anybody even has the inkling that you want to coach, please go ask somebody, because we're all anxious to get more coaches.
Of course, what advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to become head coaches one day?
Yeah. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Apply for any and every job that you're interested in. And even if you're mildly interested in it, especially for women. And this is one of the mentoring things that, we've got a lot of female coaches associations and women leaders associations out there. And a common theme is that women sometimes will just, cut ourselves short. We won't necessarily even apply for a job because we're afraid of like, oh God, okay, well, if I get it, then what's this going to mean? And it's scary. But we got to take that chance and apply for jobs. And it's going to be a great experience if we apply. So don't be afraid of it, and don't always look for the perfect job. Sometimes every job has a hard aspect about it, and there's no perfect job that exists. So take on the challenge and just take the chance.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Yeah, like I said, take that chance, right? I think that you gotta reach out, and building a legacy and building a program. It looks different to different people, but at the same time, we can do it in whether it's a travel ball, whether it's, doing personal training organizations, and you're helping develop athletes from the back end, whether it's high school, junior college, or the 4-year college route. There's so many different ways to build a legacy and build a program. So just kind of sit down and figure out, what your long-term goals are and why we're doing this, right? What's our why, which a lot of coaches say. And when we identify that, we can start somewhere. And then once you get that ball rolling, it can develop into anything you want it to be.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find the program on social media along with you at?
Say that again one more time.
Where can my listeners find the Whittier College softball program on social media along with you at?
Yeah, so our Whittier College softball on Instagram is I will be honest, my athletes run that for the most part. I'm like, I let them run with it. But on Instagram, it's Whittier College softball, and then it's dubcpoets.com is our Whittier email or website address, and then you can search softball off of that. We got lots of camps coming up, and if anybody ever wants any coaching advice, any recruiting advice, like I came into this industry to help propel women or coaches in general, like whether you're a man that wants to coach softball, however you identify in general. If you want to coach softball, I'm all about it. So just feel free to give me a holler, send me an email, anything like that, and I'm going to do what I can.
Thank you again, Coach Trisha Senyo, for your interview, and best luck in your future with the Whittier College as the head softball coach.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you, you too, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.